Hey everyone, welcome back to PokeMarketLab. In today's video, we're going to go through some market data here and market analysis after we've had a full weekend here to digest Prismatic evolutions. Hopefully you had a good opening weekend here for this set. Maybe you were able to find some product at retail. I did a little bit, but while I was out searching and hunting this weekend, a lot of other people were doing the same thing. I went to just a couple stores this weekend at the mall doing some errands, and it was wild just to see how many people at every single store that ever carries Pokemon were asking, do you have any Prismatic evolutions? And it was almost to the point, seeing the staff just get so frustrated with the folks asking. I've never seen anything like it on release day. So I was able to grab a couple poster collections at Best Buy. I was able to pre-order some local pickup options, and that worked out. But that was really the only retail I was able to get. So yeah, we're going to go through some data. We're also going to go through a few TCG Player screens right now. So let's do that first. Then we'll look at the data. The first thing we're going to look at is Prismatic Evolutions Pokemon Center ETB. If you remember, pre-release here, these are selling about $400 each. We did see briefly on the Pokemon Center website them saying had verbiage on there saying they were going to reprint this, but that was removed. So suffice to say, we did not get any release day product for Pokemon Center product ETBs, as we typically do. So I have no idea if they're going to reprint this along with the regular ETBs like they announced. It would be fairly easy for them to do so, but they need to be very, very careful with this. This is seen as the collector product in the Pokemon world. So they've typically not reprinted this in the past. We did see a Twilight Masquerade reprint. I don't know if it was reprint, restock, what it was. It was kind of odd for a set like that, but we just don't know what's going to happen with these in the future. So plenty of sales on these over the weekend, but the prices dropped pretty tremendously here, but selling really, really well. Fantastic product to hold long term. I don't know that I'm a buyer necessarily at this price, especially with the potential for reprints coming down the road, but I can guarantee you any reprints of even this on the Pokemon Center website, unless they're massive, is not going to do much to move the price. And remember, when we get past that reprint, we're unlikely to see another one. And so the market at that point is going to, it's going to determine that, hey, if we're moving forward with this without any future reprints, it's probably going to price higher at that point. Regular ETBs, very, very strong performance. We're going to look at some data on these in a second. Price is still holding very strong at about $123 a ETB here. Massive sell data this weekend, but it is actually starting to taper off a bit. And I have some data to show and some thoughts around why that might be. And then going on to singles, I was really surprised about singles performance. And again, this is one thing I probably should have prefaced with. This is very, very early in this product. I don't think we can make any kind of definitive, thesis or any kind of definitive answers surrounding anything right now. I think it's been absolutely crazy. Last week we had a reprint announcement going right before release day. So it's very, very hard to make any kind of really solid guesses as to what's really happening and what the underlying motives are behind pricing and sell volume. So Umbreon, of course, massive pricing, competing with the Moonbreon here. That'll be a separate video to talk about. This is still very, very early in the life cycle of this product. But suffice to say, this is a wild price. And this is really, the price is number one, demand. And if we look at, we're going to compare some other cards here. The demand for this has $1,600 or $1,500 a pop is quite strong. I would not have guessed we would have seen that many sell, and there's just not enough of them coming to market. And that's number one, the pull rates are terrible. We're going to go over that. And two, the ETB prices are so high that to be able to get product to crack open into list on TCG Player, you can actually make a profit, but it's still extremely expensive. So in order to smooth out the expected value calculations on what you can expect to receive out of an ETB, you have to open a large amount of product. Essentially, you have to hit those Umbreons periodically, and you have to open enough product to get those to smooth things out and actually make a profit. So very surprising on this. Amazing sell data compared to other cards. I'm looking at things like Exploring Moon, which is a highly anticipated card, and I got one page here of sales, and it's just my thesis is that people think the card prices are too high. I think the cards are fantastic. I think there would be demand for these cards. I think the market's waiting. I really do think people are kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to die down. I would have expected much more sell volume on a card like this Jolteon here. Absolutely beautiful artwork here, but just really anemic. I mean, less of these have sold than a $1,600 Umbreon. I would not have guessed that. And the problem here, again, is you're not hitting SIRs enough. We're going to go over that pull rate data. You're not hitting them enough to get enough of these to the market to move this price down to a point that people will actually pay it. That's really that's the rub right now, is there's just not enough of these in the market. The market just isn't a buyer at this price. Might be a buyer at $100 or below, but it's not at this price. Again, I think it's a beautiful card. I don't think that's the issue here. Another one, Eevee, $200 market price here on TCG Player. Only 13 of these listed. More sell volume than the Jolteon here, which was to be expected. But really, price isn't moving. There's not a ton of buyers. I think people are just waiting. They're not buyers at that price. I would have guessed this would have been a singles game because of the cost of boxes, because people knew they were reprint the pull rates were going to be bad, that people would load up on singles instead. And I just don't think we're seeing that. Here's the Master Ball Jolteon. Again, a product, a card I would have thought it would have sold massively well, and really just a handful of listings here. So, Sylveon, another beautiful card. 22 of these listed on TCG Player. Really high market price here, and just not a ton of buyers. The EV promo from both the Pokemon Center and the regular ETB doing quite well. This is the Pokemon Center stamped version. Remember, just the only difference is this little stamp here in the corner, selling awesome at $100 a pop, and lots of buyers at that price. So that one actually a little surprising given the cost of it, but and this is, again, these are driving that price gets high enough that drives opening of the Pokemon Center ETBs, especially when there's a chance to make some actual profit on the packs. It makes it a little less painful to open the Pokemon Center ETBs. And this is the regular one. This is the regular EV that can be found in the regular ETB, holding well at about $12 a pop here, and many sales the morning of Monday here, the 20th, and bunch of sales here. So high demand for that. Okay, so now we're going to look at some sell data from TCG Player. This is both pricing and sales volume starting on the 13th of last week through Sunday midnight here. So first thing let's look at is box volume. So that's represented in the vertical bars there. So you can see release day, which is highlighted in blue there. That's the 17th. Almost $1,500 boxes sold on TCG Player at an average price of $120 a pop. So remember, on Wednesday there, the 15th, so that's the third orange bar from the left, that's when we heard that reprint announcement from Pokemon. But I think the market really didn't do much with that. So we actually saw the next day prices very stable still. We saw a bit of a dip, so we went from that $150 to about $134 price point. So really didn't do much with that reprint announcement, not at the time anyway. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact there was no date announced on there. So I think that was really indicative of the fact that this is not going to be a quick reprint. It could be a month or even two later, and at that point we're going to be into Journey Together, so the market's really not going to benefit. It's not like it's coming a couple weeks later or anything like that. So price really did not move much based on that announcement. We're still holding that price on the right hand side is closer to about $120 for the Sunday price there. So it actually held on very stable throughout the weekend. But you can see the sales volume on Friday was high and then tapered off through the weekend. Still very high for sell volume. Still over, gets over 600 sold on Saturday, but then dropped to about 400 on Sunday. So my thesis going into release weekend or release day was really, are we going to see people deploy money and buy, which we did, or are we going to see people kind of wait in the wings? I think we're seeing a little of both. I think people were hoping the reprint, I think everyone was hoping the reprint announcement would do something to the market. I think it's clear that it didn't do much. I was more surprised, not on the ETB performance, but more on the single side. I would have thought this would have made it at $150 a pop, or even a little less. I would have thought people would have jumped in the singles, knowing that there's not going to be, the pull rates are terrible. The boxes are expensive, so that means people are not going to crack the boxes to liquidate them for singles necessarily, and we just didn't really see a lot of the sales volume on the more expensive cards. So I think the future of ETBs is bright. What we'll have to wait and see is in the coming weeks what happens to the sell volume there. I think the other question is, did we see a lot of retail product available? Did we see more than we thought we were going to see? We knew there were going to be a lot of scalpers, and that was certainly the case. But were people able to pick up enough product that we just didn't see as much sell volume on TCG Player? We don't know. Let's go on to pull rates here. So on the right side here, we have pull rates from 151, just to kind of give it a specialty set comparison, and look at Prismatic on the left here. So let's look at that SIR. That's the one that's really brutally different versus 151. So the average, the rate of pack opening you would have to get a specific SIR in Scarlet and Violet 151 was about 225 booster packs. That is 1,440 packs, 1,440 packs for Prismatic Evolutions. That's brutal. That's really, really, really tough. So now a single SIR is about 145 out of 45 packs. So that's not bad. And actually from the expected value, you could actually make a profit on Prismatic depending on how much you were able to purchase ETBs for. So just a little bit of math here. So $13 a pack, 120 based off $120 ETB, specific SIR pull rate of 1,440 packs. And times 13, that means you could spend, not that you would do this, you should never do this, you could spend $18,000 trying to pull a specific SIR. So very, very difficult pull rates. Now let's look at value distribution. So this is the vertical bar chart here of the top 20 cards listed by market price as it stands here on Monday morning on January 20th. 2025. So we can see obviously the Umbreon here very, very high, but really quite, again, beautiful value on some of these cards here. But one thing to be cognizant of is these aren't selling. The volume of these is not selling. You're not able to liquidate the Umbreon, the exception, but the Sylveon, the Leafeon, a lot of these other cards are not moving at these prices. So the question is going to be in the future, are we going to start seeing are we going to start seeing a reduction in card price, even though we're not seeing more supply come to market? Because, if you're opening $120 ETBs, you have to make your money. You have to have sell volume on the cards, right, on the back end at those prices that we see here in order for that price to justify that box price, right? So again, there's this dynamic of card price, sell volume, and box price that are all working in together to decide whether people, especially these folks that have large access to distribution and we're able to get product or not now at this point, right? So distribution doesn't have anything. So the only source of product now is at a high price point. So the question is, again, are the card prices moving? Are the card prices themselves good enough to justify opening product? Because if we don't get product to market, we may not see that price move on those cards. What happens is over a long period of time, if we don't see cards move, the price naturally is going to start dropping on cards for these companies or these individuals to get money back from opening that product. So again, it'll be interesting to see in the future, but I was very, very surprised. I would have expected some of those SIRs to move much, much more than they did. Again, this could be money just waiting for things to settle down and to smooth out as we get into the next week or two, and then maybe the volume will pick up. Again, I don't think it's a vote on the card on the images. I'll say that. So let's look at the top 10 here visually. Again, you get that Umbreon up top. Absolutely beautiful gallery of cards here. I love every single one of these cards on this screen here. I don't think that's the problem. I just think it's a supply issue right now. I think people are not willing to pay some of these prices. The Umbreon, the exception. Again, that one was, I would not have expected. I was not surprised by the price necessarily. I was not expecting that to have moved more cards on TCG Player than some of these other cards. Very surprising. So let's go over some high level thoughts surrounding what we've seen on ETB performance as well as singles performance. Obviously, the pull rates are brutal. I heard that there are God packs. I think I saw one video on a God pack. I don't know if that was ever confirmed by the Pokemon Company. We'll see. Bad pull rates means low availability of some SIRs, which means high prices. Again, that's the dynamic of that kind of fighting between the card values and the booster boxes and the ETBs that you have to open to liquidate those cards into the market. The card prices will continue to fight with ETB prices as market struggles to decide to open product. And now, again, all that's cheap product that any of these stores got at those prices, at those regular distribution prices between $30 and $40 a pop, that will all have been either mostly sold or opened. And that's the other large question here. A lot of that product could have been sold as full ETBs instead of singles. So if you're a card store and you got, a few hundred ETBs at that $30 to $40 price point, depending on your relationship with your distributor, what would you do? Would you if you're these ETBs are selling for a minimum $100 a pop, so you got a 200% gain on your initial cost, right? And you could sell those, you could move those all day, as we saw, right? Do you go with that guaranteed 200% profit, or do you risk opening singles to liquidate in the market? To me, even based on what I'm saying now, I wouldn't. I would absolutely put boxes out. So that's another thing. Maybe we had less singles going to market because we had less of these big stores, these big individuals that typically do singles. We had less of that because of the box price, because you go with the guaranteed hit, right? You can, I've opened many boxes of Pokemon, many boxes of Magic, and it is brutal sometimes. Even if the expected value calculation should work in your favor, sometimes it just doesn't, because again, expected value it's statistics. It's not guaranteed. It's what's likely to happen. And sometimes it doesn't work in your favor. So it's always a gamble, is what I'm saying, when you're opening products. So do you go with the sure bet of liquidating boxes versus opening product and putting it on the market and then trying to move that product? And again, from what I've seen on the SIRs, those SIRs, those prices are what inform that expected value calculation. But if you can't move them, if they don't move quickly, then it's just not worth it. You have to be able to move them at that price in order to get that money back and make that math work. ETB price is strong considering reprint information. I was expecting maybe a little bit more of a dip. Very, very solid. I think that $120 price point will probably hold for the time being unless we get any more communication. The question will be, does the market pay attention to this enough in the next coming weeks? What happens for Journey Together as we start seeing previews there? Does that start to cannibalize Prismatic demand? Journey Together is already selling about $200 a booster box on eBay. I don't know if that'll hold. It's really going to depend on the previews. Sell volumes tapering off, more retail than we thought. Did we get some retail? I don't know. I saw plenty of people posting on social media that they were able to find stuff at retail. So that means scalpers, I'm sure, were out in force, but not enough to deplete everything. There's just not enough data for us to make any determination on that. And again, single sell volume weaker than I anticipated. Just not enough volume coming to market, or the markets just voted and said, "Hey, I'm not paying these prices for SIRs." Or maybe it's not a vote necessarily on the price of the SIR, but just it's a timing thing. People are waiting, giving what we know about reprints. And there may be pressure to fight for SIR prices again, as given the box cost and the cost to liquidate this product, we're not going to see a change in the number of SIRs coming to market. Again, the box price is too high. Even if you expect to make money, you have to be able to sell at those prices. So those prices have to go somewhere at some point in order to drive. It's going to inform how many boxes are open. Again, there's going to be a fight there. So my thesis, there's still lots of money waiting for reprints. I definitely think there's people waiting. Myself, I certainly do not advocate getting in at these prices. Keep your eye out on retail. We're still going to have product come to retail. You'll have some ETBs and poster collections and other things like that pop up here and there. I think that's the play. Whether this reprint will be big enough to squelch the demand of the market, we just don't know. A lot of that's going to do with timing. Again, if we get to Journey Together, if it's a strong set, then that reprint, if it's not fairly large, we just don't know. We honestly don't know. We don't know what kind of bull market this is. Is this, are there a lot of investors? We know we have a lot of scalpers. Are there a lot of collectors? I can guarantee you there's a lot more collectors than we used to have. We just don't know if this is how much of the market is organic demand versus investing demand. and so on and so forth. So definitely a strong performance this weekend on Prismatic. Absolutely gorgeous set. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next week or two. We'll do another update here as time goes on. We'll continue to pull data so we can kind of see some of these trends and make some informed decisions. So that's it for this video. PokeMarketLab out.